Hi everybody, Stone here with Wood and Stone. I got another small shop tour for you. Robb Gray of Graycloudusa Knives was gracious enough to sit down and do an interview with us and gave me the opportunity to show you his small shop. It's just under 700 square feet. He is a knife maker, but there is woodworking involved with that, and he is a professional maker. His stuff is featured at Filson, sells his knives. He's in a couple of high-end restaurants in town, Kiln being one of them. He works with chefs doing some custom things, and then he does custom knives and custom gun engraving. But a small maker in a small shop that's doing it successfully. I originally met Rob through teaching at Woodcraft. He taught the pen turning and knife making class there, where he took the knife kits from Wood River and put scales on them and showed everybody how to do that. He's a great guy, highly skilled artisan who's overly humble about his skill set, because what often happens with all this stuff is as you get better, you realize how much more you have to learn. So he's in that spot. He's been doing this for about 20 years professionally, I believe. But I just wanted to give you a go around of his shop and kind of show you what that layout looks like and what size shop produces what size business, because you can get really big businesses out of really small shops. This is a converted garage, so just under 700 square feet. So I would say like it's a big 3-car garage, a deep 3-car garage is about right for that size that he's modified. So we'll start just behind the camera here. One thing to note while we go through here, there's a lot of focus lighting because a lot of what he does is engraving. So not a whole bunch of great lighting for camera work. So bear with me on that. As we move around the shop, some of the stuff, it might get a little bit blotchy, but that's the nature of doing basically jewelry work. And it's amazing. I'll show you some of that stuff in this video. But as we start here, Rob's, this is actually the engraving room, computer and computer research. I don't have a computer in my shop, and now I've been in a couple of them. I think that needs to happen. I always bring a laptop in, but I like the idea of a station. And then, so we have the engraver and the microscope. He does some really fine detailed work. It's just amazing. He's the first artist that put the Sheridan Style engraving that they use for leather work. He's the first one to do it on metal. So over here he has the filing drawer where he keeps all the knife scales, pen turning blanks all sorted. So that he can keep track of what he has and what he needs. Occasionally, some of us buy some fancy stuff that we probably don't need, but it turns into something. And this is an example of some of the work that he does now. I wanted to point out, this was the very first knife that Rob made with the sheath. He was 13 years old. And then many years later, the bug bit him again, and he got into this. This was about 20 years ago now. So this was his first attempt. He just put the scales on this knife, and then a couple of decades later, this is what you end up with this just beautiful engraving. This is camel bone. There's diamonds in there, and then this is his leather work as well. So you can see just a highly talented artist. And then over here, these are actually leather working knives that you can see. We got some wenge, it looks like there, and some lace wood that he also did the engraving on. So just a highly talented person, but I think it's really important to see that like all of this comes out of a tiny shop. So keep that in mind as we go through. But you know, everything is up off the benches. You can see like the pegboards. And then he was in the middle of a project when we came in, and we pulled some of this out for the interview. Usually all this stuff is stashed away. It's a very clean, organized person. It helps with efficiency. And then this I thought was a really good idea. I've seen this for keeping temperature in shops correct, comfortable. But he actually put this up to keep, what we're going into is like the dusty area that he does stuff. He did this to keep the dust out of this area. So as we come in here, we have 4 drill presses that are all set up to do a specific task. He said he has come down from 7, so it seems like a lot. But, and remember, again, this is something that Rob's been working on for a couple of decades. Like, you didn't start out by buying a whole bunch of drill presses. You kind of expand until you find your niches, and then you contract to what you need for those. and he found it's most efficient to have multiple setups for the different pieces of knife making. And then here he has a couple of belt sanders that use these thin but long belt sanders. There's a process, or belts, there's a process in knife making what's called slack belts. So you need these really long belts that bend. They don't have a support behind them, so that you can it creates the contours and stuff that you get in the handles and on the knives. This is an original grinder that he keeps around for that reason. It seems like all of us have those tools that they're just close to our heart. So we keep it around for the reminder of like we started somewhere, you know. And then you know, obviously a bandsaw. We have dust collection, disc sander, a couple of different polishing setups, honing and polishing setups. Everything, you know, you can see he keeps the discs for the disc sander and the polishers and honing setups right next to those. He's got a bunch of vice grips that are the nearby for that same reason. And then over here is where he's attaching all the scales and doing some of the more messy. Now, granted, this is small, so in comparison to like a cabinet shop, messy is relative, but still you don't want this in by like the laser machine and all those things. And then over here, we have an appropriately sized mill. You know, so just to give you a point of reference, this thing's only about 30 inches tall or so, maybe a little bit taller. And then an old Craftsman lathe. You know how I'm always saying when somebody brings up some of these brands like they're embarrassed, I'm like, what year was it? This was clearly not made in the 2000s. So Craftsman and Delta, a lot of those older machines are built super strong. So keep on coming in here. And again, with that, like if that's what you have now, ride it till it dies, and then you know, upgrade when you can get around to it. There's nothing to be ashamed of there. We all started there. I started with Ryobi tools too. So as we come in here, this is a laser engraving machine, and he has it big enough so that it can cut. It actually makes the boxes. One of his main customers is Filson Outdoors, so this makes the box that his collector grade knives go in. It actually cuts that box out and engraves it at the same time. So really powerful laser. And then you have a kiln over here and some more storage and stuff. Rob he does not do the forging, but he takes the steel and he shapes it into the blade. So it's just like an 1/8 inch wide piece of steel that he shapes in and treats it after it's engraved, and then puts everything else on it. So you know, he's a highly skilled artisan. I'll put a link to his socials and his website in the bottom of this video. But you know, somebody to check out. And also another piece of encouragement, like he didn't start out here, and he's here, and he has a successful knife making company. He's a small maker with a small shop that has a big business and a big following for his business. So I really liked working with Rob. He's a funny guy, but I mean, just when you see this in your hand, like what you get on camera does not do it justice. It's amazing that somebody can do that with their hands. So anyway, thanks for tagging along. I hope it encourages you to keep going with a shop that you have, because we all started out small, and some of us ended up still staying small because that's the good spot. So have a good day, and I hope to see you in the next video.